What is good, everybody? It is your boy Cab back with another Xenoverse 2 video for you guys. We are here to go over the newest paid update Super Souls that were released in DLC 17. I already covered the free update ones in a separate video, but today we will be taking a look at the ones you get when you actually buy DLC 17. Now the first one comes in, actually before we get into this, shout out to my homie EZ. He is the one who hooked me up with all these early before I've gotten them myself, so again, huge shout out to him for getting me these and showing me the screenshots. But getting into them, we have Super Saiyan Rose, Ultra Super Villain, Goku Black Super Soul, and what it does is when the battle begins, it completely restores your ki, and then when your ki is maxed out, it boosts strength of all attacks by a medium amount, which is a 10% increase. Now, the 10% increase, this Super Soul is almost counteractive in a sense, because by restoring your ki to its max at the beginning of the battle, right, you would feel that it gives you the opportunity to use moves and things like that right off the bat. You know, things that you would have to get a little build up for ki, usually you can use right away. But if you do use it right away, you do lose that temporary boost to the strength of all your attacks by a 10% increase. So it's a little, again, counteractive in a sense, because one, giving you all that ki makes you want to spend the ki, right? You use your moves, things like that as early as you can. But then if you do use them, you lose the other part of the Super Soul at the same time. So overall, I would say it's a okay to good Super Soul, just based off the fact that you start the match out with completely restored ki, and it also really depends on your build at the same time, because the more ki you have, the more this would actually benefit you. Like, this is going to benefit somebody who has 10 plus bars of ki much more than somebody who has like 6 bars of ki, for example, on their build. With that being said, moving on to the next one, we have Vegeta Super Saiyan God Ultra Super Villain. What this does is always shortens the time of your guard break by a large amount, which is a 15% increase or decrease to that. And then also, when your guard is broken, it boosts all attacks by a medium amount and boosts stamina recovery speed by a medium amount at the same time, and it can be stacked up to 5 times. Now, this is something that I can see being a problem with certain, you know, female type of races on this game that like to run very low bar staminas and try and get their self breaks off as much as possible. Because, for example, say they were able to self break 5 times in a match, right? Let's just use that as an example. At that point in time, they have a 50% boost to all their attacks and a 50% boost to their stamina recovery speed, and they still have a shortened time of guard break by 15% as well. So I can see this being somewhat of a problem with certain builds in a cheesy way, and like in an annoying way, not in a way that like, oh, this Super Soul's amazing. No, it's more of like, oh, this Super Soul can be a nuisance if used in a certain way. That's just my first thoughts, and that's what first comes to my mind when I see this at the very least. Now, moving on though, we have Broly Restrained Super Soul. What this Super Soul does is always decreases the amount of ki restored by an XXL amount, but when you use an Awoken, it boosts all your attacks by an XL amount, which is 20% increased, and then restores that XXL amount to the decrease in ki by boosting the amount of ki restored by an XXL amount. So essentially what this Super Soul really does, in my opinion, like what I'm getting from it, is when you use an Awoken, you're getting a 20% increase to all your other attacks. Basically, that's what I'm seeing. On top of the Awoken bonus you're already getting, you're getting another 20%, because it kind of cancels out the decrease in ki restored from the beginning with the increase that you get when you actually transform. Now, I will say one thing about this is it will make it a little bit harder to get to that actual Awoken in a sense, because, well, your ki is not going to get up as fast as normal, so it will take you just a little bit longer in an online setting. But at the same time, getting ki in an online setting usually is not that hard, considering how clashes work in this game and things like that. So overall, this is not a bad Super Soul. I wouldn't say it's a great Super Soul by any means. I mean, the boost to all attacks by an XL amount definitely is nice, but it can obviously only be ran with certain Awokens at the same time. Like, this is definitely not something I would say you would want to run with like Blue Evolution, which is currently the best Awoken in the game. It could be very good for something like Beast, but at the same time, Beast still has the same issue that it's had since it came out day one, and that's the simple fact that, well, let's be honest, it's the easiest awoken in this game to stamina break. Like, it's almost impossible to get off in an actual match against somebody who knows what they're doing. So with that being said, let's move on to the next one, which is from Videl. And what this does is when your health is below 50%, you get a boost to your strength, the strength of your melee attacks, which is your strike-based skills, by a 10% increase, and it boosts the amount of ki restored by a 10% increase at the same time. And then when you drop below 25%, that increase goes up to 15% for both of those categories as well. So I would definitely say this is not a good super soul, not something you really want to use. There's much better super souls out there that you can have active for much longer time, which almost makes me feel like at this point in time, I don't understand why they necessarily release super souls like this, because again, there's just so many better options that you can have for your CAC. I mean, it kind of makes more sense as to why someone like Videl would have a super soul like this, but again, as far as CAC goes, this is not a great super soul by any means. Now moving on to 18, when the battle begins, it temporarily boosts the strength of all attacks by an XL amount, temporarily boosts the amount of ki restored by an XXL amount, and temporarily increases damage taken from all attacks by a medium amount. Now the real decision maker on this super soul is how long does this actually last? How long are these temporarily increases, actually active? Because say they're active for, a minute and a half, something like that. If that were the actual case, this could be a damn good super soul without a doubt. I mean, online matches are only 3 minutes long. So for 50%, the first 50% of the match, for example, you had this super soul active, that would be kind of insane. I would definitely take a 20% increase to all my attacks and a 25 to 30% increase to the amount of ki that I'm restoring in exchange for a 10% increase to the damage that I take. I'm getting more of an increase to my damage than I'm actually losing on my defense, and that alone makes it pretty good in my opinion. But then also temporary boost to the amount of ki restored by 25 to 30%, because XXL does vary in how much it actually gives you, is another bonus for this right here. And again, it just really all comes down to how long this super soul right here is actually active when the battle actually begins. I have not unlocked it for myself, so I don't know for sure 100% how long it lasts or anything like that. But again, depending on how long it lasts would really depend on how good or not good this super soul actually is. So overall, man, I would say between the free update and the paid update, we really didn't get any kind of crazy super souls or anything like that. The one that I would still say has the potential to be the craziest would be the one from Pilaf, which I believe what that one does is when you die, you automatically revive. Now again, that, like I said in the free update super soul video, that depends on if it were to actually work in a PvP setting. Like, if it worked in a PvP setting and you were revived with full health after you had died, that would be absolutely insane. But I don't think that'll actually be the case, because that would just kind of be a little bit broken in a sense, you know what I mean? Getting a whole second chance at life with full health, again, a little bit broken with that one right there, if it were to actually work that way. But I don't think that'll be the case. That'll be something we have to find out when we actually get access to that super soul. And I don't remember if it's going to be a TP Metal Shop super soul or one that'll be given out through a raid at some point in time. But it will be given out in one of those two ways, and once we do get our hands on it, we'll be able to actually know for sure what that super soul is actually about. But with that being said, man, that is essentially all 10 super souls between the two videos right here. Let me know your thoughts on these super souls down below in the comments, and if you feel like me that they're just overall not the best set of super souls for a DLC. I feel we've gotten much better sets of super souls in the past. It would have been nice to see something like, it's always nice when we get something that's like usable for blue or blue evolution, things along those lines, because those obviously are the two best awokens still in this game at this point. But overall, again, let me know you guys' thoughts on the super souls down below in the comments. But till next time, boys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, hope you have a good one. Peace, y'all.